The movie is about a well-known restaurant in Hong Kong called The Seven on Spring Avenue. The restaurant's talented chef, Sky Ko, specializes in Southern-style food. On a cooking show, a TV host talks about the 30-year-old restaurant and its chef. Even though Sky is already known as the best chef on Spring Avenue, he shows off his skills on national television. Along with him, his friend Uni meets the people she usually takes care of. The restaurant's finances are very clear about the quality of the food and time they give their customers. This is one reason why their restaurant is so popular. Most days, there are so many people there that they have to form a line outside the restaurant. Someone who is rude cuts in front of the line. Even though the customer brags about how powerful and wealthy he is, Sky won't serve him. Before he leaves, the man laughs at their small restaurant and says that his boss has asked a world-class chef to open a 3-star restaurant right next to theirs. Uni is scared by the thought, but she laughs it off as a joke. In France, the crown king and queen are getting ready to meet their new son. To celebrate the birth, they throw a huge ball and ask a world-class chef to cook for the guests. The said chef Paul is shown to us on. He is a Korean chef with a Michelin star who learned to cook in France. Paul has a unique style of cooking that doesn't fit into any one style. He likes to combine dishes from different countries to make new ones. The chef's special is a dessert that looks like a red egg but is actually filled with mango puree and coconuts. Gross. The dish is based on a tradition that says red eggs are a blessing for a new baby and should be given to the family. The royals are moved by the meaning behind the dish and how tasty it is. They applaud Paul's great work. After the ball went well, he and Mayo, his assistant, went back to the restaurant where they work. The owner and their co-workers cheer them on and tell them how happy they are for them. The owner also says that Paul is now the executive chef for all of the Art Nouveau restaurants. This is a very big step for him. But everyone is surprised when he turns down the offer. Paul wants to go back to Asia and try to find something bigger and higher. A Chinese businessman who wants to open a 3-star restaurant has asked him and Maya to come with him. The staff agrees with their choice and sends them off on Spring Avenue. Sky finds out from one of his regular customers that the rumor about the new restaurant being opened is true. Sky is happy that his small colony is growing, but he doesn't want a new restaurant to open nearby because that would mean fewer customers and more competition. When Sky was 10, his father would hit him and make fun of him because he couldn't cook. One day, he left Sky and chose to be a chef instead of a father. He said that Sky couldn't even make a good bowl of noodles as an excuse. Think about your dad leaving because of noodles. Uncle Seven, the owner and boss of the 7 restaurants, has been taking care of him ever since. Unlike he also taught Sky everything he needed to know about food. Sky hasn't seen his father in over 20 years, and he doesn't have any plans to get back together with him. Paul gets to Hong Kong the next morning and goes to the market to look for a big grouper fish. The seller only has one of the fish and decides to sell it to Sky because he thinks Sky will cook it better. Paul says that a store owner shouldn't be partial. Before the seller cuts the fish in half, they have a small fight. A few weeks later, they both went to the opening of Stellar, a 3-star restaurant that is right in front of the 7-star restaurant. The first people to come to the restaurant are the chairman and manager of the Lee Management Group, Paul, and greet them. At the same time, people from each of the 7 restaurants start talking about the deals they'll be running for the next week. When the restaurant's security guards try to stop them, they get into a fight. This gets the attention of Paul and the other guests, so they come out to see what's going on. When the talk gets heated, Maya suggests they have a cook-off to see who is the best. Sky and Paul see each other at the market and decide to be friends. They decide to have a competition to see who can cut the fish the best. Paul goes first and quickly takes out all of the fish's ribs with his skill. After that, Sky takes the same fish and, in less than a minute, cuts it into even pieces. He gets cheers from the crowd, and even Paul is impressed. The chairman of the Lee Group has to give a fair report of the results. He says that the real results won't be known until the results of the International Chef Challenge, which both chefs are taking. He also says that he wants to take over the whole Spring Avenue colony, get rid of all the buildings there, and make it more modern. If Sky wins the competition, the chairman is willing to give up on his plan to protect the colony's history. But Paul will go through with the plan if he wins. Sky feels pressured because the future of the whole colony is in his hands. But he is still going to do his best over the next few days. Fewer people are going to the 7 restaurants. Uni is worried that they might go out of business soon, but Sky says that can't happen. He uses escargot and field snails as an example to show that some people will always like one more than the other. They don't have to change their food to be better than the stellar restaurants because there will always be customers who like theirs better. The next day, Sky is disappointed when he goes to the market and finds that all the good fish have been bought by the Stellar restaurant. The people who work at the 7 restaurant have a bad day until they hear that Sky has been chosen for the cooking competition. Soon, he will compete against Paul to get into the semi-finals. It will also be announced that the winner will have to face Mountain Co., who has won the competition twice. Sky is surprised to see that his father has reached the level of success he has always wanted. Now, he wants to get to the finals even more so he can compete against him that night. 7. After his trip, he goes home and calls Sky to meet him at a pub. So happy to see him again after so long. Sky runs to the place, but when he gets there, his father is there with Uncle 7. Mountain tells Sky straight out that he still doesn't believe in him and that he doesn't feel bad about leaving him for his career. Sky has never heard anything more hurtful than what he just heard, but he hides his pain with anger. He says he will win the competition and show that you don't have to be a bad person like Mountain to be a good cook. On the day of the culinary duel, each competitor has 90 minutes to cook and present a dish of their choice. Sky makes a traditional salt-baked duck, and Paul makes a faux grass or bay. The whole hour and a half is very exciting because both cooks are very good at what they do. Sky cuts the duck's insides with little to no effort and pulls them out quickly, making the crowd gasp. In the end, he bakes the duck in salt and breaks the top layer to reveal a well-cooked duck stuffed with vegetable. When the judges try it, Sky's duck seems to impress them more than Paul's sorbet. When it's time to vote, Paul gets 3 9s and a huge 10 out of 10, giving him a total of 37 points. This is right after Sky gets 2 10s from the first 2 judges, giving her a total of 40 points. He gets a 9 from the third judge, but an 8 from the last judge. Since both chefs have the same number of points, the head judge decides that Paul is the winner because his dish was better presented than Sky's was. Even though Paul's victory should have made him a better cook, things didn't go as planned while they were celebrating. The manager tells Paul that he wants Maya to play in the finals instead of him. He says that in the media, a woman is more appealing than a. When Paul tries to defend his job as head chef, Maya tells everyone that he has trouble tasting some flavors, like salt. He has been cooking from a notebook with all of his recipes in it for the past few months because he can't think of anything else to do. Maya also says that she never wanted to be friends with Paul and that she was only on his side to get ahead of him as a. Paul storms out of the restaurant, angry and hurt, never to return. That evening, Sky runs into a drunk Paul in front of a stadium for an event. For a few minutes, they forget about each other and talk about their pasts and problems. Paul says that his father was a great chef and that his last wish was for Paul to be like him. Sky also tells him about the relationship between him and Mountain. After talking, they both feel like they can trust each other. They also curse at Mountain in Korean while throwing bottles of alcohol at his picture on a billboard. Paul doesn't want to stop trying just yet. Since he can't take part as a chef from the Stellar restaurant, he decides to take part as a chef from another restaurant. He even asks Sky to join him in the semi-finals after he shows that the rule book is wrong. At the same time, the manager of Stellar is at the 7 restaurant trying to convince Uncle 7 to let the Lee take over. So, Paul and Sky should come up here and say that they are going to work together. Paul also reminds the manager that since he won the competition, he can compete at the championship. For the next few weeks, Sky and Paul will work and train together. They try each other's cooking styles and come up with a way to update traditional food that they both like. At the Studio City Casino in Mac, the semi-final of the cooking competition is held. Whoever wins the round will have to face the current god of cookery, Mountain Co. The competition starts, and Sky and Paul use their best cooking skills to compete against 4 other great chefs from different parts of the world. Maya is also in the competition because the Lee group made her. She cooks more carefully than Paul to show that she is better. She makes a dish with oysters and frozen foam that the judges like at first. But when they try it, they seem to think it's just okay. Paul and Sky make a deconstructed maple tofu in the meantime. Sky's sense of taste helps her figure out what ingredients taste like, while Paul's knowledge of cooking helps with the techniques and steps used. They all work together to make a traditional dish with a modern twist. The judges are very impressed with the dish and give it a lot of praise. In the end, they win the competition and get to the same place as everyone else, the finale. Cheers. Paul looks at Maya, who is standing with her head down because she betrayed him and couldn't prove herself. Only one of the chefs can go up against Mountain in the final round. Paul thinks that he can't take part because he doesn't have good taste. He knows that Sky wants to beat Mountain because it's important to him. So, in the finals, he suggests Sky face Mountain. The next day, Sky meets his father face to face. In an hour, they can cook anything they want for the competition. Before the race starts, the father and son don't talk to each other. Mountain starts cooking right away, but Sky is thinking about something else. He remembers how Mountain left him and how much he cares about the people in his neighborhood. The thoughts are too much for Sky, and he can hardly concentrate on anything to bring him back to himself. Mountain throws water in the face of his son. This brings Sky back, and he starts making dough right away. At the end of an hour, Mountain makes a pretty sugar display of molten lava with a flower on top. Sky's dish, on the other hand, is a bit more simple but more personal. He makes noodles like the ones that Mountain used to make before he left his son all those years ago. When the judges try Mountain's dish, it blows them away. But Sky never gives them his dish. Instead, he gives Mountain the bowl of noodles. Mountain eats it, and he feels sad because he finally remembers what the noodles stand for. He has no choice but to admit that his son is a great cook. It's not clear who won the competition, since the judges didn't get to try the food. In the next scene, a crowd has gathered outside the 7 restaurant to celebrate the Chinese New Year. Sky and Paul cook them a meal, which they all eat together.